I think it's a good idea to do a couple of little housekeeping chores this afternoon with regard to the words of the sacred readings. First of all, we're going to be doing St. Luke all the way through the summer and fall, right up to Thanksgiving. We'll be reading out of the Gospel of St. Luke. And as we are accustomed to notice, that will influence the choice of the first reading for that particular day. So there's the connection. We're supposed to figure that out. There's the connection between the Gospel and the first reading. It was kind of easy today. But the middle reading also follows it follows a course of Galatians and Colossians and Hebrews and several of those books of the New Testament, and they're read serially, but they don't necessarily have any connection with the gospel and the first reading. So the middle reading is independent of those other two. Now, as always, it's up to us to try and make a connection between the sacred readings and our life as we have to live it, and how we do it. I'm sure you heard that magnificent phrase from the middle reading to the Galatians that Paul said, you gotta love your neighbor as yourself. I was reminded of a story quite a few years ago when my sister Janet lived in one of the suburbs of Los Angeles. It was a hillside, and there was a house quite close, but up higher on the hill. And for one reason or another, this man who owned that house and lived in it, he and my sister got into a little difficulty. And the situation ended with him getting very angry. And Janet waited a few weeks, and then she caught him when he was going into the garage or something. And she said, Rick, I think it's time that we made up and started to live as neighbors. And he said, it isn't gonna happen. And he turned and walked away. And she really felt badly about that. Another year went by. And one day, he came and knocked on the door. She opened it, and he presented a cake. He said, this went on long enough. We're going to be able to be neighbors, at least speak to each other. And she said, yes. And that was how that little deal ended. I suppose that you picked up the urgent tone from the gospel and the King's reading about get this done. Don't worry about other stuff. Get it done. And so Jesus and Elijah, they made things move along. Now, there are two things that we have to keep in mind this afternoon and always. The two famous prophets are Elijah and Elisha. And as you picked up from the reading, the one was the mentor, the other was the disciple. Elisha was a disciple. That's one thing. The other thing is today we had another very, very pointed reference to one of St. Paul's favorite images, the spirit and the flesh. Given the atmosphere in which we live, it's somewhat easy to say, oh, the flesh, they're talking about sex. No, they're not. It's anything that can keep us from our pursuit of the kingdom of love. So if it's money or power or what, the flesh stands for anything that can keep us from pursuing that goal of the kingdom.